for someone like myself who started off the way I did, like there was a lot of doubt about me in the beginning. And there's not very much doubt about me now, is there? But to be honest, it's just because I got too big to ignore.
I'm here with Drew Afualo, creator, influencer, actor, author, you name it.
A man of many hats.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Give me a quick 30-second intro and elevator pitch to your brand.
I started on TikTok, making fun of terrible men, leaned into empowerment, wrote a best-selling book. Here we are.
That's good. That's a very short elevator.
There you
go. Before you started posting on TikTok, what were you doing? Now I know you were a fellow journalist, which I like.
Yeah.
And you made this very smart jump into creative. Tell me about that. I'm interested in that.
Yeah, I double majored in college. I went to the University of Hawaii, so I majored in journalism and communications. My dad's a former NFL player. I'm Samoan, so I grew up around football. So I, had an emphasis in sports journalism. That's where I really wanted to go, and I got my degrees and graduated, and turns out your parents are right. It's very hard to get a job, a very saturated market. So I actually worked in PR for a few years, and then I made the jump to work in the NFL. I worked for the NFL. That was my first big sports job, and I was very excited.
What did you do for them?
I did social media. That was digital media was kind of my thing for them. Got fired, and then COVID hit 2 weeks later, and then I started making videos because my fiance encouraged me to, and now here we are. 4 years later.
Love it. When you first started making the videos, what was the motivation?
I think initially it was just a creative outlet for me because I felt very stifled, and I had never felt that way before. I felt very sure of my path my entire life, career-wise, up until I got fired, obviously. That makes you rethink a lot of things. So I started with story times initially about my own journeys through dating, and that's kind of what started piquing interest. And then I did one video about red flags in men, and that was my very first one to take off, and then it just snowballed into this crusade of hunting them down for sport. And it worked out.
So tell me, when this thing took off, what do you mean? You looked at your phone one day and it was like, whoa, wait a minute, this is getting a lot of views.
Yeah, it was, my very first video to go viral, to hit 1 million views. I had never seen anything like that before, but more so, I think the hate that I was getting from men was very shocking to me because I'm 29, so I grew up on the internet. I've been a voyeur and a consumer for a while, so I'd never experienced that kind of attention online before. I thought it was funny. A lot of other people thought it was funny. Very specific men did not find it funny, which made it funnier to me. So then I think it just gradually started building very quickly.
And how did you plan what you were going to post?
I think after I saw what did well and what made me laugh, I was like, well, I could just keep doing this and having fun with it. So back in the day, I used to post 10 videos a day, but it was mostly just making fun of men who were saying awful things to me. Okay. I was just pumping them out like crazy. I don't do that anymore.
Replying to all the trolls.
Yeah, essentially, because I thought that was funny, but I guess a lot of people online had never seen someone like myself handle hate from men in that way, which is just laughing and then doing it back. So that's kind of what I think drew people to me initially, was my reaction to hate. It doesn't hurt me, it motivates me. Yeah.
When you started doing those videos, who was the audience in mind? Were you thinking of a certain viewer out there, or were you just trying to make stuff that you yourself would like and make yourself laugh? What was the who did you picture in your head when you were making those?
At first, it genuinely was just something I thought was very funny. I found that very entertaining, so I thought I'm gonna make it because I find it funny. After it started compounding very quickly, I realized that it wasn't just for me, it was for anyone marginalized that these kinds of men target and harass and send hate to. It was for them as well. As it started growing and growing rapidly, I realized it was a lot bigger than just me.
Were you funny growing up? Were you the funny kid?
Yeah, I'd say so. I like being funny. I like entertaining. So.
Who do you have any people you look up to? Were there any sorts of comedy or any comedians that really you're like, oh, I like what they do, and you model yourself off that? Inspiration.
Yeah, as far as just being funny in general, I think my family made me that way. Obviously, like I said, I'm Samoan, and we love to roast each other for fun, and that's how I got good at it. That's how I got good at laughing at myself. As far as comedians go, my friend Caleb Heron's one of my favorite comics. Chris Fleming is one of my, Wanda Sykes, Monique. Like I've loved stand-up comedy forever, but as far as just generally being good at making fun of awful men, like I just got good, just reps, lots of reps.
And I know you come from a big Samoan family, and
Yes.
sisters, and is your mom and sisters funny?
Yes, very much so,
they teach
yes. My whole family's like that, so.
All right, so you're making these videos, they're taking off suddenly, like instead of just doing something for yourself, they're getting millions of views. When did it turn into like, wait a minute, this could actually be a business? Like, could actually be like a creator, I could be a social media personality.
I think when it started shifting for me was when I started, at one point, my videos were growing so rapidly that I was growing like 100,000 like every 3 or 4 days. So every 3 days I would get 100,000 more followers and then 100,000 more. So as it started compounding, I was like, I think this is turning into like something, like some sort of a following. As far as when I thought I could turn it into a business, it was probably when I got signed to an agency, and I got my first agent, who's still my agent to this day, love her. And so I think when I signed with her was when I was really like, okay, I can like actually like do this like for a living, like as a job. So
how many followers do you have now?
I have 8.1 million on TikTok and 1.1 million on Instagram.
How do you decide like, I'm gonna post on TikTok or I'm gonna post on Instagram, or do you kind of just do one video and put it on both? I
typically do videos only on TikTok, and then on Instagram, that's kind of more of a lifestyle thing for me. I think it's just a way for me to extend branding past just making fun of men on the internet. I could do a lot of other things too. So my Instagram's more so lifestyle stuff. So
Gotcha.
I don't really have like a pattern per se. I try to post at least once a day or once every other day. Kind of just do it as it comes to me now.
Nice. So so back in the day, it's COVID, you're blowing up, and I'm sure at this point, are there managers calling, agents calling, brands calling, trying to get into like into your influence?
Honestly, shockingly, no. I really didn't have any interest at all in the beginning when I really started taking off. I had a couple, like I had like maybe 2. One of them was the agent that I'm still with now. Looking back, I know why now, because my branding was very specific. So there weren't a lot of agencies, I think, that were willing to take a chance on me.
Okay.
Obviously, I have the engagement and I have the platform and the attention. There was a little bit of fear around marketing me, like whether or not I would be marketable at all. My agent saw that in me. She actually really had to fight to sign me, because there were other people, higher up people at the company that she worked at, that were kind of like, well, I don't know, like, you know, we might not be able to sell her to anybody.
Okay.
And so she really fought for me. They signed me, and it turned out it was a very good idea to sign me, because once she signed me and I worked with like 1 or 2 brands that were willing to take the chance, it just kind of snowballed after that. Once everyone saw the like draw, I guess.
Yeah. What were some of your early brands you work with that took the chance on Drew?
One of them was the brand Change, which is a sustainable clothing line. Actually, the only clothing I've ever put out is with Change, and it's because it's size inclusive, it's genderless, and it's a nonprofit. So they donate, half of the proceeds always go towards some charitable organization, and they're ethically made here in the US. So they were like one of the first brands to take a chance on me, and their messaging and their branding and everything they stand for and speak out for, I feel so passionately about. So it kind of felt like a match made in heaven, that they were one of the first brands. Dermalogica, the skincare, was one of the first brands to reach out to me. Youth to the People was a big one too. Like, it's more so like brands that were really looking for someone outside of just like, I think what people are used to when they think of influencers, right? Beauty and lifestyle are obviously very important pillars of influencing, but I think obviously I'm not a beauty and lifestyle like specific creator. I'm a little different than that. So I think they just dug that.
And who do you work with now?
Oh man, I mean, all kinds of people. I've worked with alcohol brands. I worked with Cash App. I've worked with clothing, makeup, skincare, hair care. I've worked with anyone you could possibly think of. Yeah.
When you get an offer, how do you decide, like, is this going to be this is something I want to get behind versus something I'm going to pass on? Like, when you're looking for a partnership, what do you look for in that brand and kind of in that relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I guess moral integrity is like front of house. Whether or not it's inclusive, whatever that may look like, whether it's clothing, skincare, makeup, like making sure it's ethically sourced, that we're just aligned on our goals and what we stand for, more than anything, I think that's the most important thing.
Cool. And you took that and you're expanding. Now you just wrote a bestseller,
Yeah.
Loud,
Yes.
right? Called Loud.
Yes.
You have 2 podcasts.
Yes.
How did we get to that? Well, let's talk about the book first, because
Sure.
I love how you got famous with TikToks, which is
Yeah.
obviously extremely short form,
Yes.
bits of content and short focus, and then you sat down and wrote a book. What was what was that motivation, and kind of how did you do it?
Yeah, I mean, transparently, I was a little worried. I wouldn't say worried. I honestly didn't think I could write a book. When the idea was initially brought to me, it was by my manager. I know my mom. My mom's one of my managers as well, and she really wanted me to write a book too. And my manager said, I just think you have something really important to say. I think you could expand a lot. Because he spends so much time with me. He hears me talk all the time. I feel so bad for him. I feel bad for my whole team. They have to listen to me yap all the time. But he knows me on a very personal level too. So he was like, I just think you have something very important to say, and I think people would want to hear it. So I wasn't closed off to it. I was just kind of like, I mean, I'm just an idiot online. I don't know if like writing a book is the move for me. And he said, well, let me just set up some meetings and maybe we could just talk about it and maybe something will come to you. So, I agreed to meetings, obviously, and I met with my now literary agents, and we kind of talked about if I did write a book, what would I want it to be about? And we went through that whole meeting, and my literary agent told my manager, like, I want to do this with her. Like, I think she can do it, and I think it's a great idea. So that's kind of how the book came about.
Cool. What was the process like? What's your writing process?
Well, initially it was just talking, more talking, more yapping. I just sat with my literary agents and talked, like they asked me, give me like 20 topics that you think you could expand on that fall under the umbrella of like decentering men, decentering male validation, dismantling internalized patriarchal structure, and so I wrote down like 20 topics. We whittled it down to like.
And these
10.
things are these things you've covered on social media before?
Yeah, in so many words. Like I've covered them, but obviously in the very like concise way you can in like a 1 to 2.5 minute video. And so then from there, some of them we combined, some of them we got rid of, and then we got our final list. And so then we picked one to kind of focus on. So then from there, they would pick one and they'd be like, hey, you know what? Like, give me 2,000 words on this and give me 3,000 words on this. And so then I would just write like however it came to me and send it, and there's just like edits, more edits, send back, edits, more edits, send back. It's very tedious after a while, but that's kind of how it started. It was just a month of me talking about everything that's ever happened to me ever in my entire life that falls within those topics. And then from there is when we started piecemealing.
That's cool. Yeah, it's good that you did like in like bite-sized pieces. So
yeah,
you're not
totally.
like, sitting there I have to write 100,000 words. It's
exactly.
like 3,000. That's very cool.
And I'm also very like busy too. So they were trying to be cognizant of my schedule and all the other things I have going on. So I was working at the same time I was writing. So
what time of the day do you write? Do you have like a certain time?
Oh no, it was all over the place. I wrote on my laptop, I wrote on my phone, I wrote in the early hours of the morning, I wrote late at night, I wrote in the afternoon. Like it was very varied.
We're not posting on TikTok and Instagram and writing best-selling books. You also have not one, but 2 podcasts.
Yes.
Tell me about those, how they came about, and how do you kind of come up with ideas?
Yeah, for the first podcast I started, it was actually the one with my sister, which is called 2 Idiot Girls. And we started that before I even started a TikTok. I think we love just talking and yapping. We're sisters, so we love to talk to each other all the time about the most random things. So that's how that one kind of started. We just love telling stories and giving our useless thoughts on things. And then the comment section was actually a combined effort of me and my production team. And we came up with the idea after, obviously, I had built the following, and we talked about what we wanted it to look like and what we would want it to sound like and who we would want to have on. And so I started the comment section with my production team, and it was just us for like the first, I think, 5 or 6 months. And then I became Spotify exclusive before I even hit a year filming it. They were very interested. The show was doing so well. And so we became Spotify exclusives after. And so they're very different vibes. Like I think the comment section I call my show because it's more like a talk show. Whereas 2 Idiot Girls is more of a podcast, and it's more chill and it's more silly and it's more, I mean, there's silliness on both sides, but I feel like they're just 2 different sides of me. And so I think that's why they work so well. coexisting because people are so multifaceted. So obviously we know I can make fun of men. Obviously
Yes.
we know that. But I can do a lot of
Thank
other
you for
things.
sparing me. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. So
Well, you're one of the good ones.
It's
Steve,
still early.
so.
It's still early in the
Yeah.
interview. We'll see how it goes.
Don't tempt me.
But I love how you mentioned production company. I think
Yes.
so many people. So I cover influencers as well, and I think a lot of people think it's just Drew with her phone holding it, but the more and more this is getting so professionalized, and you are a brand, a business.
Yes.
Tell me what your infrastructure looks like, your team. I know you have a lot of great family works for you, but also you're doing you're putting on multiple shows. Like, what is the viewer that sees you on TikTok missing behind the scenes with like how involved this is becoming like a company?
Yeah, I mean, as far as my personal TikToks go, obviously that's just me. I don't have a social person or like someone who posts for me, or everything that goes up is from me, like in my phone. But as far as the projects outside, obviously, like I have an agent, I have a manager. Well, I have two, counting my mom. I have a personal assistant. I have 3 business managers. I have a lawyer. I have a stylist. I have a hair and makeup artist. I have a whole production team, like a producer and an editor, a social person for the comment section. I have an editor for 2 Idiot Girls. 2 Idiot Girls is also underneath another podcast umbrella, so we have a team there too that helps. We have a Patreon, and I have a Patreon manager as well who runs our Patreon. Like, I think obviously my book, I have publishers, which is, I don't even know how many people. My literary agents, I have 1 literary agent with a team of 3 or 4. I'm looking at like 30 to 40 plus people.
Yeah, you have like a whole industry behind it. That's
under
wild.
my employees. Some of them are under me personally. Some of them are an extension of my business. It's all very.
What do you do on Patreon?
Oh, on Patreon, we do a lot of bonus content for 2 Idiot Girls. So obviously we work with Patreon, but I have a Patreon manager. So he runs the Patreon as far as like making sure everything's going smoothly, making sure we're staying on time with uploads and all that kind of stuff. Cool. He's fantastic.
Your business, what is I know there's with your business, I know there's a lot of varied revenue and sources. Yeah. What is like your bread and butter in terms of like, how does these 40 people you described, 30 people, what is the main source of revenue these days?
For everyone on my payroll, it's mostly brand deals, and then my larger projects, so my book and my Spotify exclusive show, and also 2 Idiot Girls too, is very revenue generating as well. So it's like I got like 3 or 4 big papas that fund the majority of it. Okay. And then I do speaking engagements, and I went on tour, so that's a whole nother revenue stream. So I got my fingers in many pies.
I love it. So what are you excited about? You've had a crazy busy year.
Yes.
What are you what is your goals for the next 6 months to a year? Like, are there certain projects you want to dive into, or are there certain brands you want to work with, or new ideas? What is like your focus right now?
Yeah, right now, well, the book was my biggest focus, and thankfully it went fantastic and wonderful. Oh, thank God, it did very well. So putting her down for now. I'm probably moving towards TV and movies right now. Wow, cool. That's kind of my new venture. Maybe another book, who knows if I haven't, I'll never sleep again, and I'll just write another one. And then obviously I would love to work with more brand deals and stuff too, but I think just kind of moving into other industries that I haven't quite touched yet, and I think TV and film mostly.
I love when people go from like the tiny screen to like the bigger screen. Yeah. Can you give me like a hint at what that TV and movie might be? Is there something in production? Are you shopping things around? What's that?
Yeah, I mean, I've auditioned for a few things. I've read for a few things that are currently they have been purchased and they're just casting. Okay. So like I'm in some stages of those processes right now too, and I did some movie reads. I did some voiceover reads too, as voicing a character. Cool. So I've done quite a few little things.
Have you acted before? Are you trained?
No, no, not at all. Not professionally anyway. I mean, I took theater in college. I took some classes in college. So, but that's the extent.
Cool. Yeah. You cover the media world, you cover the influencer world, creator world. What big predictions do you have for the creator economy right now? It's changing so fast in the next 6 months. Yeah. What are the trends? What are your big predictions happening?
I would say that, I think the shift is already currently happening, which is what people know as traditional Hollywood is now having to be a lot more open to the idea of including internet people. And I know a lot of traditional talent, like sometimes industry people on the traditional side of Hollywood really hate that. Like they hate including us. They hate seeing us said certain things. And I get it, I guess, to an extent. But at the same time, I feel like if it weren't for the internet, people like myself would never get seen. There are so many people on the internet who have platforms now that do not fall within a cisgendered, heterosexual, white, thin body. So some of us don't have that and won't ever get seen unless we like force people to look at us. And so for someone like myself who started off the way I did, like I've told people before, like I mentioned earlier, there was a lot of doubt about me in the beginning. And there's not very much doubt about me now, is there? But to be honest, it's just because I got too big to ignore. They were ignoring me for a very long time.
Too big to fail.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a beautiful thing. I think fighting it is what makes it harder. I think if you lean into it and just embrace it, like there is a reason why so much traditional talent, and whether they're actors, actresses, singers, artists, producers, directors, a lot of them are reaching out to us to work with them on their socials because it's important and it matters, and everybody is on social media now. Like fighting it so hard is not going to stop it from happening. So I think that's what will continue to happen. It will evolve and it will include more internet people, and hopefully it'll include more marginalized people who don't fit in these traditional Hollywood boxes but are still too talented to not be seen.
Very cool. And I have to ask, because this is the 2025 under 30 list, and we're in the age of AI, so I have to ask you the AI question. From your view as a creator, what's your prediction for AI? Is it changing at all? Anything changing how you do your work? Do you see like an AI clone Drew out there on TikTok and that stuff?
I hope not.
But are you using AI at all to change your ways? I mean, to change your processes, or is it pretty much standard? Nothing has hit you.
I mean, for me personally, no. I don't utilize AI or see myself utilizing it for any personal business gain. I do think that I think technology development is cool in a lot of ways, but I also think it cannibalizes art, and I think that AI pulls from human experience. So if you get rid of humans, what can it pull from? It can't pull from anything. So AI can never replace the human experience and like human thought and cognitive ability. That's kind of the whole point. So I think, sure, if it wants to exist, sure. As far as replacing anyone or anything, I don't think that's a good thing at all. And I don't see myself leaning towards that. But again, I don't want to piss off AI though. No. They might come get me. It's
listening right now. It's decoding.
I don't want any beef.
Well, Drew Afualo, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.